So we're going to talk about information obesity or overload, because Becca and I were both sharing the number of books that we are reading, and that's not my fictional list. This is my non-fictional list. I also have a fiction group that I go to as well. And the courage it takes to stop, pause. We've talked about that before, and really think about, yeah, we're bringing in all this knowledge, all this information, and the courage part comes taking the action. So I would like to open that discussion up and get some pearls of wisdom and knowledge from you about how you get from knowledge to action.
It's a great question.
Yeah, when you put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my stack over here, Terry. Well, so one of the things that I recognize is that these aren't all new teachings, right? Like a lot of the books that I'm in are weaving through like very similar concepts, ideas, that, action plans. They coincide, and I'm finding that it's not taking a lot more energy to add them, because it's all about showing up for ourselves and knowing what works for us and paying attention, and it is practicing these things. So, my action is, when I'm reading the books, I'm highlighting, I'm writing them down then and journaling kind of the ideas that popped out at me. And then now when I'm practicing, my action with all these readings is to give myself more space to like meditate on it, just see what comes through and what it actually means for me when I'm reading them. So that's my action, is actually giving the space to really let it come through. That's my first like action, is really listening and then paying attention to what's true for me and building from there. So that's like my step one that I've grown into, because it was just read it. Oh, great. Check it off. Next.
Yeah.
And now it's really a practice of paying attention to what it's actually saying for me, where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
What's going to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just add that for me, I am a total processor. So I'm going to take this 40 minutes while I'm planning and process that question, because that's a really great question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we come back, we can talk, continue the conversation around that, because we're out of time. Not out of time, we're at time to go and complete or work on or practice our intention. So I'll see you back in 40 minutes.
And Terry, can you hit the pause button?
And to, thank you, Beck. Just listen to, listen to the spirit while I was getting ready, instead of information, right? Information. So I was like, okay, let me process that. So I'm looking forward to what you've come up with in terms of thinking about that question of what gets us from information to action. So I'll just open the floor again to whomever would like to share.
Well, what stirred up in me is, so we have going from knowledge to action. I feel like there's this centerpiece that, and for me, so when I hear Becky, like she's taking it in and swirling it around. For me, I pictured going to a place where I knew that where I was doing that exact same thing. I do it all the time. We all do it all the time, but just going back to this very memorable time, I'll say that I was doing that. And that from spiritual direction, we called that integration. And so taking it from knowledge, taking in all this knowledge, then integrating it into our being, and then moving to that place of action from that being that has been transformed, changed, grown, whatever it is. So for me, and in my experience, I, throughout the different phases, and it's always rotating and it's always different. But for me too, being intentional now that I hear this conversation about where I'm at. So going from knowledge to integration within me to taking it out into action is kind of what came up for me.
Yeah, yeah. And while you were speaking, it kind of made me think about a practice that we use with our clients, which is called anchoring. And so when I'm thinking about the information I've taken in, and while I'm in that process of integrating, maybe calling upon the times that I was successful at taking action and anchoring my thought processes around, well, what was different about that? And what led me to be able to take this knowledge and take action, and kind of, it's kind of like looking at what, what my strength is, rather than why am I not taking action? When did I take action? And think about that while I'm integrating the knowledge with my spiritual growth, with my, commitments to myself. And when was I able to take action? I had not thought of that before. And that's something I tell my clients all the time, right? We tell our clients, and I'm going to think about, when have I taken action in my life, and really look at that, around that, as far as integrating those same concepts around the action I want to take now. Yeah. So thank you. Because that brought that up for me right away when I heard you talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and to bounce that right back to you, so as you're speaking, and what I am kind of getting for myself is that, for me, anchoring is keeping something and anchoring it in, which for me, I'm visualizing flow and being in the flow. So when I anchor something in, it's not flowing through me. So I am for me, I can't anchor in, because in the past I've anchored in so much, but I love the concept, and will use, when in the past have I been able to move into action? What was I doing? But I feel like in the flow, I'm different in every moment, and sometimes it's a shorter phase for me of knowledge, integration, action. So, and sometimes I'm here for a longer period of time, and sometimes I'm over here for a longer period of time. But for me, just staying in the flow of it and not holding on, because man, I can anchor into some good things, and I can also anchor into some harder things, more challenging things. So, so that's what kind of stirred up off of your stuff. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the flow, just talking about the flow, is right now, I mean, in California, we've been having all this rain. I mean, where I live, we're not having floods. We're not having that problem, because I live in a very flat, actually a desert. So, but when you think of the flow, I mean, just watching the water around us right now, I mean, it's flowing so rapidly that people are trying to, stop flowing so rapidly. So I'm thinking that ebb and flow of our life, there's times we can pause and be very reflective, and then there's other times we take action. And so really, is one more important than the other? Really. And so it's like you talking about being in the flow. Perhaps the flow is, don't take action right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because it goes back to that absorbed state. Like, I do need to process things. And so as I let it kind of sit, absorb the pieces that I can realistically and want to start to integrate, otherwise some others I need to just set to the side and recognize that this isn't the right moment.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a good discussion. I'm getting all
Yeah. So good. Thank you.
I think that the analogy of water is just a really, really helpful analogy, because we all have that experience, and we can ground our thinking in the action of water, because it can be very, very smooth. It can actually be still, completely still and reflective. It can be waterfalls, and it just be real action, and it can be meandering and flowing, and it can also be stagnant. So
Mhm.
it's really a great analogy to think about when you're contemplating the flow of life, as we're applying it to now. But anybody else have something to share? Oh, I think, how does the time go by so fast?
That flew.
It was slow. So we'll continue this conversation about information, maybe information overload or just information intake, and then how does that integrate into action. We've been talking about that this morning. So anything else anyone wants to discuss in the next 3 minutes?
Well, I really liked the visual yesterday. When we were in our planning with purpose session, was just talking about being more, and flexible is not the word I'm looking for, but it's the best word I can come up with at the moment. Being flexible in the flow of the river. And I got a really good, it really sunk in when you said the rains in California, and it's just rushing right now, So being in that rush and that chaos, which I'm in right now, my garage, my yard looks like a freaking bomb went off, I mean, there is crap everywhere, even though we have so much still that we need, And so just hopping in that river and bumping up against stuff and just letting it take me where it needs to take me, being aware, paying attention, just being in the flow. I think that is my month, where I'm at for the month of March, is just seeing when I can be in the flow. And for me, not anchoring into those rocks. When I hit the rock, just let it move me, let the water move me instead of bang, 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 bang for too long, and getting really tired.
Yeah.
Quit fighting the stream. Just
Not
going.
swimming up,
Yeah.
just letting it take me where it needs to take me. There's so much to learn. And right now I'm not in books. I'm having a hard time getting into books because I think it's just okay, where do how do I integrate all this stuff that I know, all my tools, all my whatever, to just be in the flow, just be in the flow.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like doing it moment by moment, right? And
Mhm.
just deciding at this moment, if I've hit a rock, okay, I'm going to just stay in the flow.
Mhm.
And I'm not attached to a specific outcome. I'm going to stay in the flow and
Mhm.
do that moment by moment. And that can probably really support you, as you, and maybe flow is the word rather than flexible. And, that might be the word that,
Be
that
in
really,
the flow. Yeah.
yeah.
I just feel, sometimes you get that rigid, and then rigid is where you're hitting the rock. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I know I'm in control, and you're not. The flow is in control.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love
God
that.
is in control.
That's right. I was going to say, well, for me, that is God.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. And surrendering that, because that's a really important step of the flow as well. If you are of the mind that God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is in control,
Mhm.
then surrendering to that will, right? And that really then, I don't know, that just makes it
Lighter for me.
It's like, my yoke is, I can take your burdens, put them on me. My yoke is light. I can do it, Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Okay. Well, we're at 7:10. So go forth. If we don't see you, Tammy, have a great day. And we'll see you back in 40 minutes.